I'd like to call the meeting to order. Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start with a moment of silence, please. Roll call. Start with Commissioner KAAZ.
Here.
Commissioner Culbertson.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is present. Commissioner Shimke.
Here.
And Commissioner Stevens. All commissioners are present. I don't believe we have any public comment today. Anyone signed up? So we'll move right on to administrative business. Mr. LOUGHRY.
I have a couple of things under administrative business today. I'm not sure what order you want to handle them in, so I'll just go ahead and start that maybe we have Lauren Anderson come up to the podium. Lauren is an employee of Leavenworth County. She's been working down in the engineering department for a few years now, and Lauren has been working towards receiving her PE, and it's my understanding that she recently was notified that she passed and will be the latest engineer on our staff.
All right, Lauren. Congratulations. I'm sure you would have done this earlier, except for the pandemic slowed down the testing.
It did. It canceled the first testing.
Right.
That in October, so.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations. So awesome.
Congratulations. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and
And I hope you're going to stay with Leavenworth County.
That is the plan.
Okay. All right. Didn't want to. All right. Well, we appreciate everything you do.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Mm-hmm.
thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
Commissioners, you also have, I believe, a copy of a resolution that the County Council provided for you that is a recognition of those who are on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic. I didn't know if you wanted to
I'll
handle
go
that.
ahead and read that now, if you don't mind.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay, this will be Resolution 2020-50, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Leavenworth, Kansas, expressing the appreciation of the Board to the local health officer, the staff of the local health office, the staff of the EMS, the staff of Council on Aging, for their exemplary service to the citizens of Leavenworth County during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas Leavenworth County has been afflicted with the COVID-19 pandemic, an event of unfortunate historic significance. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has posed a real substantial peril to the citizens of the county, and whereas the citizens of the county have been provided in their time of peril the exemplary service by the local health office, the staff of the local health office, the staff of EMS, and the staff of the Council on Aging. Whereas the exemplary service provided by these individuals has come at great personal sacrifice and assumption of extraordinary risk to themselves and their families. And whereas the exemplary service provided by these individuals has been immeasurable value to benefit the citizens of the county. Now be it therefore resolved that this board recognizes and expresses its appreciation for the exemplary services provided to the citizens of the county by the local health officer, the staff of the local health office, the staff of EMS, and the staff of the Council on Aging during the COVID-19 pandemic and its historically significant consequences. That this expression of appreciation made by resolution of the board rather than a proclamation, so that it shall be entered into the permanent minutes of the board as a matter of legislation, and that the significance of the exemplary service provided by those named herein shall be recognized by those who in the future regard this. Mr. Miller, I want to thank you and your staff and all the others that were involved with this, and let's hope 21 is a better year. Thank you.
Have anything he wants to add?
Need a motion?
Yes, I'll need a motion. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-50.
I
So
moved.
moved.
Go ahead.
Have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2020-50. Is there any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay, are we ready to move on?
What's that?
We're ready to move to the next
We're
one.
ready to move on.
And we thought Mr. Miller was going to give us a speech.
That may come later.
An update here in a minute.
I think that may come later. Commissioners, another item under administrative business, we have the interlocal agreement for sewer improvements to the Tonganoxie Business Park. Basically, this is just formalizing what was discussed earlier. The city has issued and accepted, I guess, bids on their project down there just here last week. This interlocal agreement, and I don't really want to call it an interlocal agreement. It's more an agreement between the county and the city. Just formalize that and allows the city to go ahead and issue those funds, the $1.2 million that was previously approved, to the city of Tonganoxie for that project.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the agreement? Any questions? Your area?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Do we need a formal motion?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Okay. Move that we approve the
Interlocal contract.
interlocal agreement between contract respecting main interceptor sewer improvements to serve the business park and financial Tonganoxie, Kansas, and County of Leavenworth.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Voting?
I just, one thing to say, I just, when Mr. Hempel's here, we just really appreciate that your city council was able to get this all done, and it was a little bit of a process, so thank you for all your hard work.
The city appreciates the cooperation we've had between all the groups involved.
I'm just glad the engineer overestimated it. Makes it a little bit better. But anyway, so any other discussion on this? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioners, the only other item I have for administrative business would be, I have Mr. Miller here to, last week we had kind of a lengthy discussion about COVID-19 vaccinations, and so he has volunteered to come up and kind of give us an update of where we are in that process.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Again, thank you for the resolution. I will surely pass it along to my entire staff. And I do appreciate the support of the board throughout this process. I know we're not over with it, but I do appreciate the support. Real quick, just on an update of where Leavenworth County is. As of Monday's update, we're at 4,738 confirmed positive cases. That is from the information that we've had into the health department at that time. Just as a reminder, we are always about a solid 14 days of cases continuing to flow in on those numbers. So that information does change. We have seen over about the last 3 weeks a steady decline in cases per day. And our total positive percentage has also been dropping in our community. So that spike that happened kind of in the beginning of November, we're starting to see some downward trending. We're seeing that across the state as well. One of the things that has helped us at the health department, a state contracted testing lab has been placed in Leavenworth County. It is at the St. Mary's campus. It's a drive-through lab. They have taken on the testing for us, which has allowed our staff at the health department to prepare for the vaccine and vaccine administration. That tour health testing will also, it was scheduled just to be through the end of this year, but it has now been extended all the way through January 31st, so they will be available in Leavenworth County doing all the testing for us, and they do it 7 days a week. So it also gave additional testing times and such for Leavenworth County residents to be tested. On the vaccine side, we received vaccine last week. We received Moderna, and that was for healthcare individuals, public health, EMS, first line, physician groups and such, primary cares, dentists, chiropractors, things of that nature that are seeing clients throughout this process. Within 24 hours of us receiving that, we started the vaccine process. I did receive mine, and again, no side effects from that. About the only side effect, if you will, is a sore arm, which that's no different than many other vaccines that we receive. So EMS has been vaccinated, health department's been vaccinated, several doctors, physicians' offices. We are expecting additional vaccine next week to continue down that pathway for some of the home health and things of that nature that are still in that kind of primary first group that need to receive the vaccine. As vaccine becomes available, we'll move into the next phases that we're allowed, which is first responders, critical infrastructure, those in the high-risk categories, and we'll move into those categories as vaccine becomes more readily available. The thought process right now is probably towards the end of January, additional vaccine will allow us to continue moving into that next phases within the vaccine plan. That's really the meat and potatoes that has really been happening over the last several weeks. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot on our end to, one, receive that vaccine in and then getting all those shots out. One of the main issues that I'd like the board to understand is the vaccine comes, it comes in multi-dose vials. We have a total of 6 hours from the time we open that vial until we have to give all the doses out of that vial. If we don't give all those doses out of that vial, it's wasted vaccine at that point. If we waste vaccine, then we can become a blacklisted provider and we won't receive additional vaccine in the future. So it's a real scheduling issue. It's a process that we have to have. We have to know who, and then we pop that vial and give all those vaccine. It also has thawing times. It has a lot of critical components to this vaccine as it comes that we have to make sure we manage. So we've been successful. It really got dumped into our lap after the FDA approved it. It showed up on the doorstep about 48 hours later, and we were able 24 hours after that to have everything ready, and we were actually injecting vaccines. So I think we were very successful in this. We've moved forward. Like I said, we've given 200 basically since last Tuesday. Okay. And you got to put the Christmas 4 days in the mix of all that as well. So I think we've been pretty successful of managing what we've received so far. And like I said, the hopes is additional is going to come next week because we still have that pecking order and list of people waiting on that list. And as soon as we get it in, we make contact and then we set up all of the scheduling and such so we can get all those individuals vaccinated.
So you're not having trouble notifying people if you got a vial that's you got to get rid of in 6 hours?
We started actually beginning of December. We started reaching out. How many within a practice? How many in your practice is going to want to receive that? And we started putting that in that spreadsheet so we knew already where we were going to be going, who we were going to be contacting. Just like we're starting to make those contacts to first responder agencies. All the fire departments, we're starting to reach out to law enforcement to start getting that list of how many within those agencies are going to want that vaccine so we can start that process and have that list ready to go. So when vaccine's ready, we can move on and start giving the vaccine.
How many doses are in that one vial?
It comes with 10. There are times that we can get 11 out of it. Just because of how vaccine is in there and how you can draw it up. So 10 to 11 is what's in a vial.
So when will other places be offering the vaccine, like the pharmacies or doctor's office? Right now, it's just going through the health department?
Correct. Right now, it's going to health department directly. It'll be going to long-term care facilities directly. That's through Omnicare, which is a spinoff of CVS. So the nice part is we don't have to worry about nursing home long-term care facility. They will be receiving that directly through Omnicare. And from my understanding, the first 2 weeks in January, that's all being scheduled. So all of those will be receiving their vaccine within the next 2 weeks at the nursing homes.
Okay.
As of doctor's offices and such, again, they have to be a CDC provider. They have to sign up for it. There's a lot of, just like we had to do, there's a lot of things. So a lot of the physician's offices probably are not going to initially sign up for it again, because when you pop that dose, they would have to have 10 people willing to have it, and they're not going to open it just for that one person. So it's a scheduling nightmare for individual offices right at the moment to do it. That's why it's pushed to health departments. It's pushed to, again, pharmacies and such are going to have it. CVS will probably have it. Walgreens will probably, I'm assuming, have it. I know the Guidance Center Pharmacy has signed up, but they will not receive it until it's fully open. So that probably won't be until summer time frame when there's enough vaccine for those agencies to get that.
Back to your testing, is any of these testing, any of them rapid, or are they all got to be sent off?
It's PCR testing which is not a rapid test. The antigen test still, we still have to do confirmatory testing because the antigen testing has so many false. We received a few boxes of rapid testing, and we were doing some trial runs with it, which we were pulling both a rapid and a PCR test, and we were having a number of false negatives where the PCR test was actually positive, even on the rapid test, on the antibody test. So we steered away from that and went back to just doing PCR testing because it just was not showing the accuracy that we had somebody in front of us that was symptomatic, meeting all the criteria. We do a rapid, it's negative, and the same PCR, do the same and put it into that PCR test to do the confirmatory, and that confirmatory test is positive. So that's the problem with antigen testing that has been all along. It's those false negatives, false positives on the antigen test.
You'd rather have a false positive than a false negative.
Yeah, and we've had some false positives on antigen testing as well, and then our PCR test is actually a negative. So,
How many do we have currently hospitalized?
I don't have that number. I know as of Monday there was one, but starting on Mondays, we start calling around all the hospitals again, trying to find out off of our list if any of our active cases or any cases that should be assigned to Leavenworth are in hospitals. So I'll know more today when we go back. Today we'll have a more accurate number as to how many are in the hospital. We've had a total of 145 in the hospital.
During the whole. Then the question was on the ranking and prioritization of getting the vaccine. I know the governor has made statements about that prisoners would be put to a certain position in the line. Has that all been decided yet, or is that still in the process of being decided?
That won't affect our doses, nor will I go in and have to give any of our doses into the prison. The state's going to be handling that. So how they divvied out and distributed the vaccine that they're receiving at the state level, I don't know where they're going to put them in the pecking order, but mine does not have corrections or those type of things in mine.
All right, so it's going to be totally
separate.
That's what they did with the testing initially.
Correct. Yeah, they're going to handle. They're actually going to handle all the work. From my understanding on the conference call of yesterday, corrections officers as well as the inmates will be handled by the state and their health care specific. Same thing with the feds. Feds will get their own. Fort Leavenworth will get their own. So that won't affect what I receive in for mine and my distribution out. We won't have to hold back a certain amount for me to go up to correctional.
Yeah, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Commissioner KAAZ knows more about that. Like on your calls, have you discovered where the Have they decided that for sure, the pecking order or the assignment order?
It's fairly high in the priority, and that is because the congregate, kind of like the same thing with nursing homes or where there's, and where you have the contact of getting the guards and the employees and the staff inoculated so that they're not also contributing to the issue of positive cases that have been brought. So it is a fairly high priority for the state
Part
to
of
get
critical infrastructure.
right.
Rest assured, an inmate's going to get it before you do.
Right.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions of Mr. Miller? Well, thank you for bringing us an update, and thank you for everything you and your staff are doing.
And thanks for all of your work and your staff's work.
Jamie, what time is the?
I'm sorry?
What time is the St. Mary test I open?
8, I believe it's 8:30 to 4:30 every day.
Every day.
Oh, really?
Fridays.
Every
On New Year's, they will be closed on New Year's Day for this week, but every other day. they're
7 days a week.
About 8:30 to 4:30. If you go to tourhealth.com, it's on the website for us as well. We pushed it out.
And they just drive in the front gate of the college?
Yeah,
You can get
it's
an
off of
appointment.
Hughes. It's off of Hughes Road. Once you go onto the website, you click the Leavenworth site, and then you can put a time in that you want to go. That'll help speed it up. You will put in all your information, create that account. It can come to a smartphone, your computer, anything, and your results also dump into that portal as well, so you don't have to wait for that phone call. That's automatically then dumped to the state, and then we also receive that information at the health department based off of those as well. So because it is a state-funded site, it's linked with us and everything else.
And
Are
this
you
is-
required to make a appointment, or is it a walk-in service as well?
Both.
It's both.
Okay.
It will delay a little bit if you don't have your appointment because you're going to have to fill out all that paperwork in the forefront. It's not a whole lot, but it does help speed it up.
And it's a big white tent. You just drive in one side and out the other.
Yep.
They test
Yep,
you in your
it's
vehicle.
very simple. Everybody that I've talked to, I mean, they've said it's as easy as coming when we were doing it up at the health department. You drive up, you get your test, and you're on your way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Keep up the great work, Jamie. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other administrative business this time, Mr. Lawfrey?
I believe you have a letter of support for 911 system evaluation that was requested by Commissioner Shimke.
Yes. Anybody have any questions on the letter of support?
This is going to be like, I can talk to them before it's.
Sorry, Vicky, I didn't hear
I
you.
didn't hear you, Vic.
How are we, have we reached out with all of our interested parties so that it's not a Leavenworth Times front page?
Yeah, so my plan was to reach back out, but I think there's a full understanding that it'd be in front of the board today, and that my goal was to present to the city council next week when they're back in session. So.
Yeah, just one question for Mark. In a study or evaluation of this type, any idea on what the cost would be?
I mean, I don't know the cost without going out for the proposals, but I would anticipate that this is a pretty detailed and involved study. So I would anticipate probably $60,000 to $100,000 would not be unreasonable for something like this. Especially since the organizations I think that we looked at none of them are local, so there's going to be some coordination issues with that too. But somewhere around there I think is reasonable.
Any other questions on the letter of support? Commissioner Shimke, I think you would make that motion.
I am happy to, and David, thank you. I didn't have any comments. I didn't know if anybody else had any further comments or suggestions, but I thought it was obviously very well worded as to why evaluations over any period of time, whether that's done on a 10-year basis or 20-year basis, or just in general, making sure that we're providing the absolute best and safest solutions to our residents is in our best interest to do so. But I don't know if you got any other feedback or. Doesn't sound like it.
So you made a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support for the evaluation of our 911 dispatch and related services that include any and all services offered in Leavenworth County. I don't think I have the appropriate language. I don't know if it'll encompass it or not.
Support for the 911 system evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the letter of support? Voting?
I just have one question.
Okay.
If this, let's say the city of Leavenworth would decide that they want to pursue or move ahead with this, then I assume then a resolution would come before us to formalize this? Is that how that would work?
Well, then, I think if both parties agree, which sounds like we are agreeing today, if the vote goes that way, and the city agrees, then I think in the letter it anticipates that there would be a committee that would go out and solicit proposals before, that proposal would have to come to this board for approval before any money is spent. But yeah, the next step, if both parties agree, would be a committee, and it calls it out in the letter, that would go out and solicit for qualified individuals to do the study.
Okay, thank you.
And that committee would be made up of all the relevant, stakeholders. That
I think it
discussed.
actually mentions it in the letter, but it would be, a representative from the city, probably the chief of police and the sheriff and a few other folks who are involved in dispatch, I would assume.
And I plan on reaching out to Mid-America Regional Council and talk to Sarah Lynn before then, too, so we can make sure they're involved. And they might even be willing to
Some money there.
pay
Yeah,
for
for
some
sure.
of the funding.
Yeah.
So I'll find out
Kind
and
of
get
where it
back.
belong.
I'll find out and get back with Commissioner Shimke.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Any further discussion? Then voting?
Aye.
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 All right.
And I had one thing. If you,
All right.
Are you done with
Yes.
your stuff?
Yep.
I'd like permission from the board to engage a drone service for the Eastern Gateway project. I was hoping to maybe get this done before some more of our meetings, like with the city of Lansing and the investors. I think it would help a lot to put it in perspective. With this drone videography, it'll present exactly what it would be like to, for instance, leave Quick Trip in Lansing, drive the route, they'll GPS the route into a drone, and it'll actually fly 50 feet off the ground like you're in a car at 70 miles per hour to get to 152 intersection. And I think when people see that takes 5 minutes, that's going to change the whole perspective, I think, for a lot of people. So I reached out to several different drone companies. I found, I think, what to be the cheapest one that's licensed, because you have to fly through the TCAs for KCI and Noah's Ark Airport. So I found one that's fully insured and licensed. So I was looking for approval to not to exceed $2,000 to get drone footage for the 152 project. So we'd have that for the future meetings.
Okay.
So I'd like to
Could
make
we
a motion.
just run that through Public Works? They don't have to have approval under 5,000.
Right.
Well, it's not an expenditure that's anticipated in their budget,
Okay.
and it is kind of a unique request. It's not something they're requesting, but that's why Commissioner
Okay.
Culbertson's bringing it up today.
And then I can get with Mark to figure out where to get
Where
the
funding
funding
comes
from.
Yeah, that's not an issue, and it's not like a
As
formal
long as
bid
the board
process or
approves it.
anything. It's just the board needs to authorize it.
And this drone on demand company said it'd probably be less than $1,000, but the more things we were talking about with the video,
You're going to fly 50 feet off the ground and
Putting
then
it-
crash into a tree and you got to buy the drone.
no, maybe that,
Okay.
but not to exceed $2,000 would be the most it would be.
All right. So are you making a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to engage drone on demand to acquire video footage for the Eastern Gateway project, not to exceed $2,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the drone company?
I think the good thing about this is that we're giving people information to promote the project and to help people see the vision of it. And I think that's part of what we need to get is people to see the vision of what this would do for our community in a long. This is long-term thinking, and this would be like Commissioner Culbertson has said, a game changer
For economic development, this should be our number one priority, I truly believe.
And it would really change the community in a good way, positive way.
Well said.
Yep, not just Leavenworth Lansing, it's Baser,
whole-
everybody will benefit. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, voting?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you.
And then I'd received a couple thank you letters for some funding. Leavenworth Historical Museum Association was thanking us for the CARES Act relief funds of $90,000. They'd sent that, Jewel West had sent me that, and then also St. Vincent's Clinic sent a thank you for the $20,000 that they had received. They're very appreciative of the funds, and I know they'll do good things with them. So, anything else under administrative business?
I don't know if it fits, but we did visit yesterday about the funding through FEMA for the tornado relief, and I visited with Commissioner Smith, and I also visited with Chuck McGaha and Bill Knoll, and they both sent emails out to various people in those organizations trying to delineate where we're at on this. It seems like COVID-19 has slowed this down, and they are still very confident that we will get funding. That's what they say, and we also found that there's a dashboard for FEMA funding, and hopefully we're on the dashboard. Yeah.
It says pending.
Yeah.
Pending? So, did we, what was the dollar amount? Do we know?
I asked that question, and he did not have an answer for that. I think it's kind of open-ended, I guess.
Okay.
Who you asked that question?
Chuck.
Chuck.
Okay. All right.
They just have specific things they will reimburse you for, and whatever that is.
Well, let's hope Public Works gets all their money back that they took away from roads.
But we submitted an amount. I mean, we submitted dollars for all things that we believe to be approved.
Well, I asked for that number yesterday, and I did not get a number.
Okay.
So, assuming we're not having a pre-legislative breakfast this year because of the pandemic, so I guess it's up to each of us to reach out to representatives and senators in our area. I mean, I know the senators overlap for some of us, but I intend to do that. Normally, we do have a pre-legislative breakfast, and we, put together what we think that we would like for them to work on. So we'll just have to do it individually. I know
I've already met with
you've done,
Jeff
and like I
Pittman.
said,
I plan on
so I just
meeting
want to
with a
make
couple
sure
more.
everybody, we're on our own this year. Reach out to individuals, and I guess we can all reach out about the FEMA and some other things that we think are concerns for our area.
Is there not another way to achieve that same meeting? I mean, it is useful. There is some.
It's very useful.
There's some exciting moments for sure. Is there not a way to do that same meeting?
Zoom meeting?
Well, yeah, via Zoom or some other online.
That way is
Well, if you have a limited crowd, you can still social distance and do it.
Won't be
We
as
always have a pretty good crowd.
Yeah, we'd have to limit the crowd.
Yeah.
It'd have to be more like the commissioners and.
Well, but you got to have all your city councils. We have all that to show up. Mayors always show up.
we'd have to figure out how to limit the crowd.
I was going to say, it was probably, what, 40 or 50?
Yeah.
Oh, at least, yeah. At least there's 40. So, and the public's even showed up.
Maybe we could have a work session with our commission and then come up with like what we want to present to them, and then have one of us go and present it, or I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Or we get a list and we just send it to all of our representatives and senators. And
Well, we've got a work session scheduled next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Didn't I see that? So could we not
just add that.
add this to
Get our
it,
list
get our
of-
list of concerns, and then figure out
Yeah.
who all we would want to obviously invite if we can solve for an online meeting session. My biggest fear is if you do it individually, you don't get to hear the concerns. You know, again, one state senator wouldn't hear the concerns of another state senator, wouldn't hear the concerns of another, mayor here locally. So I think it's beneficial to get a venue where everybody can hear and collaborate versus.
Yeah, it's been very beneficial to have everybody in the same room talking. But it's just,
You could break it up into 2 or 3 different meetings that are smaller with different, but then you're not going to get the whole thing.
yeah, but we're running out of time.
Zoom meetings work fairly well. You can also do like breakout, like you could have 4 different breakout things, like where you could have a commissioner, and then kind of invite the different people with the different agendas or whatever to meet with that legislator or that representative. However you want to do it, you can do breakouts and then come back together.
And the cool thing is when there's animosity, you can just mute them.
Right. Exactly.
Doesn't get as exciting.
No, I'm just saying,
I'm
but
not
there
sure
are
how
ways of
Zoom
creatively
meetings work
doing.
with all commissioners of the Open Meetings Act.
If it was open, it would be, if you notified and had it as an open meeting.
Yes.
As long as we were in session while we had it.
You would have to conduct it as a meeting under the Kansas Open Meeting.
Right.
I think, I like your idea of next week coming up with what
And we just
the list
email it.
is, and then.
Wait, I think we kind of put the program together, and I'd love to put it up here on the big screen and make it like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, well, that'll work. That way we can always go back to it.
Well, that solves, I think, for the public meeting aspect, because if it's being broadcasted here live, anybody can attend
And we've never had
versus
that.
the online
We've
component.
never done that yet in here.
We
Do
have
the
not done
technology.
that.
Do we
We
have
have-
the technology?
Yes.
It's right here, Mikey. We can handle it.
Okay.
So maybe add that for next week if we could.
Okay, sounds good. All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does any thing need to be pulled off and voted on separately on the consent agenda by any commissioners?
If not, then I move we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion second on the consent agenda. If there's any discussion, then voting.
Aye.
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 Well, all right, we're ready for consider the motion to transfer the sales tax funds. You be handling that, Mr. Loughery?
Yes.
All
Take
right.
that. Commissioners, you have a request from the county clerk to transfer funds into a capital improvement fund so they can carry over for next year and allow the Public Works Department to use them. These funds are, some of them are traffic impact fees that we collected prior to changing our building permit program, and some of them are fees that have been in there for quite a while. The Public Works Director already has numerous projects on works. You've seen the CIP that will utilize these funds appropriately, and they will still be tracked and spent per township as required.
Anybody have any questions on the capital road fund transfer to it?
I just want to point out before we vote, none of this money was spent in my district on paving gravel roads.
Okay.
Thought I'd bring that up.
What did the district have in funds to transfer?
I got that on another form. Kickapoo,
Kickapoo had some.
I think it had more, a lot more than Easton. One of them had a lot more than the other. Like 500,000 versus 5,000, something like that.
But you're going to get more building permits.
That's right.
You're going to have more people living out
That's
there.
right. So we're going to need some paved roads.
There you go. Build the houses and the roads will come, huh?
That's the plan.
Okay. Any other questions on the capital road fund, the transfer to it? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve Board Order 2020-16.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the transfer? Voting?
Aye.
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 So, all right. We are ready for the agreement with Wyandotte and Leavenworth. You handling it, Molly?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'm here today to ask for an extension of the agreement between Wyandotte and Leavenworth County to house juvenile in their juvenile detention center. At this point, there's not a need. It's just on an as-needed basis. The agreement we previously entered into is set to expire, and we just want to extend it. Hopefully, it's not an issue that we'll have to use it, but I believe in August we did contract with them, and they have a nice, brand-new, state-of-the-art facility, and it seemed to go pretty well and pretty seamless. So I'm asking for a motion to approve and the chairman to extend the agreement for a year.
Anyone have any questions? Molly?
No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. My only question is maybe for David, why agreements like this, that again are as needed and supported by all parties, why they couldn't be on a renewal basis. There's an auto renew unless either party authorizes otherwise.
They could be written that way.
I just seems like it'd make more sense to do agreements like this that way. But
I think it easily can auto renew. We also made a change. The original agreement was miswritten. It indicated that the Leavenworth Sheriff would pay for or would provide medical care. The way the amendment is, it's Wyandotte County that will provide medical care with notifying the sheriff, and then Leavenworth County will reimburse Wyandotte County for medical care provided.
Okay. Do you know if there's any future plans for like a regional, like a Northeast Kansas juvenile detention?
I will tell you, I don't know if there's. I think it's always something that is being considered. Out of over 100 counties in Kansas, there's only 6 juvenile detention centers in the state. So I think counties are always contracting with each other or trying to. I will tell you, Wyandotte County, they have a state-of-the-art facility, and they also have room that I think they would welcome if other counties wanted to contract with them. But as far as future plans, I'm not aware of any at this
It
point.
just seems like a regional one would be, like Northeast Kansas or even. But
Now
this is the best thing. We're fortunate we have this close, and the county over's got lots of money.
And I'll ask you a question. You may or may not know the answer to this. It's along the same lines. Is the number of juveniles needing services, has that been increasing, decreasing? What's the population statewide, or do you know?
There's, due to changes they've made in the juvenile offender code, there have been fluctuations in the, not the capacity. The capacity has always remained the same, but there's always a push by the state to find alternative placement for juveniles as opposed to detention. So I believe it's been relatively lower than it has since they have amended the juvenile justice code. Obviously, Wyandotte County built a new facility, and they, I think, can have up to 50, they're licensed up to 60 juveniles that they can keep. Right now, our facility only holds 7 on an emergency basis, and so they obviously have space that they contract with other facilities as well.
Well, that's good.
Were you just, follow up to that, were you just kind of curious about 2020 as a whole, or given the circumstances of 2020, has it looked any different?
Well, that's a different question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know which way you were going, just overall what the numbers
Yeah.
The numbers are down in general.
Now, like I said, there's been some changes in the past on a lot of new programs out there to try to keep kids out of being incarcerated.
There's always a push, especially by the state and the justice system, to find alternative placements.
Well, yeah, so you don't want them housed somewhere where they're going to learn more negative things.
Okay. If there's no other questions, Molly, I'll entertain a motion to approve the extension of the agreement for Wyandotte County to house juveniles.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any further discussion? Voting.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thanks for coming over. Oh, I'll go ahead and sign this while you're here. So you don't have to come back over. Oh, it's just one signature. All right. All right. Well, thank you. Sorry it took so long to get to you.
Thank you.
Well, we are ready for Crystal, I believe.
Sneaky.
Morning, Crystal.
How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm well. How are all of you?
Good.
All right. So you may recall that last week I brought before you a preliminary and final plat for the Baser Linwood South Elementary School at 158th, and it's at Stillwell and Golden Road, with 178th Street being built. Tongue-tied there. Sorry about that. Commissioners, you requested that we amend a condition that would clarify that if there were additional traffic in the future that warranted the expansion, the improvements of 178th Street, that would be up to the school district. I brought that condition to you. We worked with the county councilor on that. It has been amended to the staff report. It's also in your RBA. And with that, the staff again recommends approval of this request.
Okay.
Have we heard from the school district or had any communication from the representatives of?
I mean, it was a holiday week, so there really wasn't. No, there wasn't any communication with the school district. Mr. Brewer is here. He represents the school district. I'm sure he would like to speak. But
Mr. Brewer, how are you today?
Good. How are you all?
Good.
Good morning.
My name is Mark Brewer with Schlegel Associates. Our address is 14920 West 107, Lenexa, Kansas. As Crystal mentioned, we're the civil engineers for the Baser Linwood School District on this project. I talked with Mr. Howard, the superintendent. I don't think he had received any communication from the county, but as Crystal mentioned, it was a holiday weekend. So they haven't had any input on the language that's being presented to you today. So I think, based on my conversations with them, they kind of see that as potentially a foregone conclusion. I guess it's an effort to get this thing moving forward. I guess one of the reasons I'm here is I just wanted to give maybe a little background on why we're asking for the deviations. It wasn't the intent of the district to come forward with deviation from your design criteria for the spacing of these drives and public roads. We started the process with the district about 2 years ago, trying to find a piece of property that met all their needs for public safety, road access, water distribution, all other small utilities, and a piece of property that had a property owner that was willing to sell the property.
Yeah.
So trying to fit a lot of things in one spot, so we came across this property. The property owner was willing to sell. We bought the property. At that time, we met with the county discussed the criteria at that time. Again, years pass, criteria changes, and so working with Olson and the public works staff, we ultimately have all come to agreement with what these improvements need to be. The good thing is that this road that we are building, we dedicated enough right of way with these roads to accommodate a future turn lane, and the road is being built 36 feet wide. So right now it's 24 feet wide with 6-foot shoulders on both sides. So in the event that a turn lane is warranted, it simply will require restriping of the road. So most of the major improvements are being built with this first phase. So I think working with staff, we've addressed all the concerns. So I just wanted to give a little background maybe on how we got what we did, and it certainly wasn't the school's intention to cast deviations, but that's just after 2 years of the design process where we landed. So appreciate your comments and support of the project. If you have any questions, any further questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them.
The school zone lights, where will they be?
Right now, I don't believe we're asking for a reduced school zone. So the road has been designed as a 45-mile-an-hour road. Of course, doesn't make very much sense in the school zone. So this is going to be regulated, I believe, at 25 miles an hour.
So you don't think they'll have flashing lights for school zone?
That hasn't been discussed with Public Works at this time.
Okay.
So I was going to bring that up, and I didn't see, that's probably why I didn't see lights in there anywhere. Do we need to put a condition in our adopting this, that if lights are needed later, that it be on the schools?
So the county?
Control, yeah, instead of the county. What do we need to put something in there now, or?
Commissioner, that possible eventuality it could certainly be added in there. Initially, I think we talked about a 2 to 3 sentence provision. I think you see the current length. It's much like federal regulations. If we clarified it anymore, it'll be longer than the plat permit. I think if lights are needed, it certainly would not be incumbent upon the county, and the school district, I think, would eventually have to be responsible for that. We could put that in, that any additional signage to include lighting shall be the responsibility of the school district. That sentence could be added.
Okay. But, Mark, I think your question, or to your point, the dialogue we had last week that I very much love your feedback on was, seems like we've seen several schools get constructed, and they're obviously big and they're gorgeous, and everybody's really excited about them, except for what they cost, right? It seems there seems to always be traffic implications, regardless of any of the intentions and all the hard work everybody does ahead of time. So the theory or thinking here being is that while in support of, sometimes again there's so many variables that you're having to work through to ultimately pick a site, right? Whether it's outside of infrastructure, whether it's the county's not necessarily weighing in on, right? Just trying to help make it work for the board, the school board that ultimately makes that decision. So the theory or thinking being is that, you've got to plan for today, you've got to think about tomorrow, you've got to think about 10 years, you've got to think about, the future. And it seems like the last 3 or 4 scenarios we could all think of, the implications were far greater than assumed as far as the traffic impacts. And if there were going to be negative impacts to traffic flow and other citizens, that come at the school board's cost and not the county's. Again, we weren't a part of that site selection. There's a lot of school locations I would have said don't make a lot of sense just because of these very reasons, not to mention lack of infrastructure, et cetera. So the last 2 or 3 we could think of came to mind, and this seemed a way to maybe protect the county as far as expenses, since we didn't have a choice in that. Do you have any? Well, just trying to give you kind of how we got here.
I totally get it. I'm intimately familiar with the Tonganoxie School District and that elementary school. I put 3 kids through there, so I know what that situation is. But you have to understand, opening day of this school is going to have about 160 kids, full build out. I think around 380. Tonganoxie Elementary School alone has 800 kids, and the middle school is speaking off an estimate of about 400 kids. So a little different scenario there. And again, to your point, all we can do is make a decision today based on what we know right now.
Sure.
And that is, Stillwell Road is a dust patch or chip and seal road that dead ends about 1.5 miles to the west. 182nd is an unimproved road. with very little facilities for, other than 5-acre tracts. So the density there is a lot different than what it would be with no sewers available, in a town like Congy where the base traffic's much higher. So when we talk about turn lanes, we talk about the necessity to get one lane over while there's through-lane traffic that can still go through without blocking the intersection. So in the immediate area, the county public works staff asked us to look at a 20-year projection out to 2040. And so with following the comprehensive plan, the new comprehensive plan, we looked at those zoning overlays and what impact that would have on the need for turn lane. And so those recommendations are in the report. Again, I think as Commissioner Smith brought up last week, Tommy had a report, other schools had a report, and there was an issue at the end of it. So not trying to throw water on the report that we've done, but things change and there's a lot to contemplate. So I think we've done a good job of that. Every situation is different, but we've weighed all of the constraints of this site, and I appreciate your concern. And if it came down to having to install a line, the school has done that before in the past on 158th, and that's not a tremendous burden, I wouldn't think. If that wanted to be added right in turn lanes,
It was a tremendous burden when I got the call at midnight when the stop lights were on.
Right.
And then we had to basically contract out to have it repaired. The county did. But like I said, the location of the school, that's, people move to Baser for the schools. I mean, we know that, and I think you're going to have what you're going to see, though, is more than likely some subdivisions start popping up around the new grade school. I mean, I'm sure.
But they can't, at the density allowed in the county, they can't reach what traffic engineers consider a very high density. It's a high density for the county rural development, but it wouldn't be, 10,000 square foot lots or multifamily or anything like that. Without sewers, I don't see how that happens.
Right. But, 2.5 acres, too. That'll get you.
Based on conversations with the property owner the school district bought the land from, I think they're ultimately looking at about 49 lots in that immediate area that would be developed. But, again, I don't think they've brought forward an application yet for that. I think the first phase of that is just 3 lots off the road that the school built, or adjacent to it.
Did you take into account the current zoning for your study, the 5-acre zoning? Is that what was?
Yeah, we did traffic counts on 32, and we did train systems on 32 and Stillwell, and those current counts, and then for the horizon year, the 2040 horizon year, they looked at those traffic volumes on K32. Those have actually decreased over the last 10 years, believe it or not, and then. So they included a growth projection in that, as well as what the current comprehensive plan has for use in that area.
So you did take into account the land use plan, moved us to 2.5 acre.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Brewer? Like I said, I've talked to so many people who have moved to Baser because of the school district. Mr. Howard, I hate to see him announce his retirement. He's done a lot of great things over there. He needs to be recognized for that.
Project goes to bid right after the New Year. So.
Okay, that sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Then there's no other. Crystal, you don't have anything else to add to this, do you?
Mr. Van Pieris has.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, David.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, in light of Commissioner Culbertson's comments, which I think were germane, I think an appropriate motion would be to approve the preliminary and final plat of Linwood School Elementary USD 458, subject to the conditions stated, with the additional language of any and all traffic signage to include signaling attributable to the operation of the school shall be installed and maintained by and at the cost to the school district.
So moved.
Mr. Brewer?
I might just add, just in abundance of caution, The way that
Second.
read, I think a school zone flashing light is a lot different than an intersection signal. So I'm not sure the school would be, I don't want to slow everything down, but I'm not sure, I might get lost in the semantics here a little bit, but a traffic signal is a very big cost. A flashing school beacon for a school zone light is a moderate cost. So, again,
I think the goal of this, and again, hopefully it's all for nothing,
Yeah.
right? Just to remind everybody, this shouldn't be a concern. This is if it does end up being a
right, so we've
concern.
gone from turn lanes to
Right.
traffic signals.
So the point is that if the school or the development that happens because of the school increases traffic counts to demand either a school light or an intersection light or a turning lane, these things would all be at the cost of or assumed by the entity responsible for it, not the county who isn't responsible for it.
Yeah, and the developer's not here, so if somebody puts in sewers and 30 years from now, puts in sewers and multifamily development right there somehow, we don't know. But how is that the responsibility of the school?
Well, in that case, I'd simply state this, that would not have been attributable to the operation of the school, that would have been attributable to the development of the general population in the area. Now, if the school were to double in size to accept the additional students from that population, then I think it would be attributable to the operation of the school.
I 100% agree. So as long as we're clear that if the traffic increase in volumes and concerns are attributable to the school, I think we're on the same page. I just want to make sure that somebody 30 years from now from the county doesn't go point that intersection and say that's bad in the school because of this approval.
Oh, there'll be 10 new schools by then, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to be here. Well,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, so I have a motion.
So moved. Yeah.
And
I have a second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary and final plat of the Linwood South Elementary School. Is there any further discussion and voting?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
And I just wanted to point out, I know it wouldn't affect the result of the outcome of this, but I've seen what moving the school out of the city did to Easton. So I know that the goal is to centralize the location of this school to everybody in the district. Moving it northeast makes it closer to the people that live more toward Baser, so I understand it. I just hate to see it.
So you're thinking Linwood's going to suffer more than we think?
I think. So that was my point.
And I completely agree with you. I mean, the folks down there in Linwood did not want to have this happen.
I
But
understand
we're not the
it.
school board.
Exactly.
Right.
And if I was on the school board, I would have voted to keep the school in Linwood.
Yeah, I understand it. I just don't agree with it.
Not our deal.
Yep, I agree.
Not our deal. But I will say, the last few years when Linwood's had their fundraiser, I mean, it's a sold-out crowd. Usually about February.
Yeah, they're chilly.
Yeah.
And there's the quote unquote old timers down there, they say when they did the consolidation, they were, and of course it wasn't in writing, but they were assured that they would always have a school in Linwood. And
You talking back in 1966?
back in the day, whenever
1966.
before I was alive. But yeah, that's what I'm told is that when they did the consolidation, they were assured of that. And
Yeah,
it's just too bad. Times change, but we want to do whatever we can to help Linwood as well.
And Linwood also has the flooding problem, similar
Yep.
to Easton too, so they've already got two issues going on.
Could be worse. All right. Anything else? Anybody have anything to report on?
I've got, the mental health task force will be meeting on Tuesday.
Oh,
via
okay.
Zoom.
Yeah.
And I was asked, and I assumed that arrangements were made, but I'm going to represent the Commission for the Adult Community Corrections Board, where I was asked to do that at the last JCAB meeting, so so that we have representation on that, because there hasn't been anyone on that board for several months, apparently, years.
Hopefully 2021, everybody can get back to normal. But it doesn't sound like it's going to be any time before summer.
And then we'll have another, yesterday was an update from the governor, there'll be another one 2 weeks. They do
Okay.
every other week right now, so. That was,
You had anything to report on the Commissioner,
Just
Steve?
our thing about the FEMA, and
You just don't want it to fall through the cracks.
I did put some information out to some folks about the rezoning of County Road 1, and there's a lot of questions about it. There's still a lot of confusion about if zoning affects my taxes, and if they don't understand that usage is what your taxes are based on. Anyway, there's a lot of things that need to be clarified with folks.
and I think, like Mike shared, and I think it was a good thing, there was a video that is, and it needs to be pointed out from the appraiser's office that really does a good job of explaining some of the evaluations and the appraisal process and stuff that I think that we should really encourage and push out and get that shared, because it's a really, really good video.
Your appraiser's not really making the decision.
Right.
They're just trying to.
Exactly, they're
They're
following
doing
the
a
law.
job. Right.
Yeah.
That's why we need to talk to our representatives and our senators.
Right.
And on down, you need to talk to your school board
Right.
members and
Right. I mean,
everybody.
there's a lot, but I think it was a really good thing, and I think if we can continue to point people in that direction for educating, or, and it's very, not simplistic, but it's very clear and concise, that presentation is, and so I think it's something that we should.
Maybe they can sneak something into that 5,500-page document they've been working on.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just have it put up on the board, and have a late meeting and or whatever for people to be able to look at it. But it's a really good.
It relates it to hot dogs and caviar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, but, I've talked to a lot of people since they got their tax statements in November, their appraisals and that. There just seems to be a housing shortage in Leavenworth County. People want to move here, they want to live here, and they're paying over asking prices for houses to do this. You can't build them fast enough. Like I said, the base area is booming. Tonganoxie is booming. It's just, in Linwood even. They're just people, and these comparable sales on these people who've owned these homes for years, they just don't, it's just not working for them. And then we don't have any control over these school bonds, and that's what's raised a lot of people. Like I said, Tonganoxie raised their mill levy 2 mills. I'm sure Bayshore did too, but just remember that one being on the front page of the Tonganoxie paper, that the school raised on their budget 2 mills. Well, we lowered ours a quarter. It didn't help them folks in Tonganoxie, or that are in the 464 school district.
When you get a lot of times things are you have good intentions, but then the unintended consequences. So you have a nice school, but the unintended consequences.
Somebody has to pay for it.
Yeah, well,
Hey, the good news is we're getting smarter as a people, so it's clearly going the right way.
by staying home. But as you was brought up earlier, I'm sure.
That's sarcasm.
I'm sure.
We spend more than ever for a lesser result overall. So just for what it's worth.
And that shows it went over his head.
It's easy to do.
But like but when we were talking about the taxes, and I'm sure you were talking about when they built the new school on 147th Street. Look at the improvements that had to be made there that the city would have had to make on upgrading. And of course, KDOT's going to take care of the intersection.
Well, it is what it is.
And so, like I said, it's a trickle down effect, and I'm sure you're going to see some increased traffic down there at Stillwell and 178th, and you're going to see more houses down there, unless the housing market takes a a dive or an adjustment, we'll call it an adjustment. But it just doesn't seem to be letting up. People just, I mean, wish.
I don't think
Crystal
there'll be
could-
adjustment for 3 or 4 years.
Well, but in the meantime, if they keep building like they're building, there's going to be a lot more people living there.
Right?
So, anyways, Mr. Shimke, you have anything to report on?
No, there was one thing I just made a note of regarding the health department resolution, and again, thanking Jamie and his staff and all first responders. You know, it seems like I'm constantly having to remind people that whether it's Public Works, see you, Bill, or I'm just messing with you, or regardless of the department, again, whether you're public sector or private sector, there's plenty of people through all this that didn't get a chance to work from home, you know, on their laptop and take advantages of all things that technology and those jobs allow. So just be thinking about whether you work at a grocery store or wherever essential business may be, that there's a lot of people that again aren't .NET developers that get to do so from home. So just
Thank all of them.
yeah, thanking all of those people again is all I wanted to make mention of, in addition to the great job Jamie and his team has done. So.
I just attended Fairmount Township meeting last week. It's kind of the end of the year. Not a whole lot going on. Next month there'll be a new township board member on the board. So. And then we've got January 8th. We got one more meeting with Chad.
Yep.
And then we've got swearing in on January 8th.
There'll be a meeting and a half.
Right, we get to do
On the 13th,
Mike and I get to do
you
a
have
secret handshake on the 13th. Don't
Right.
On the 13th, you'll have the signed die.
Right.
So
Turnover
full
is.
board.
So he's got a half a meeting left after the
Yeah,
That's
6th.
on the 13th. Okay.
We will not be able to use the name Mike, and we will not be able to use the name Smith.
So we got an issue here, don't we?
Nice.
That's all right. We'll get through it. We will get through it. You have anything, Commissioner Culbertson?
Nope.
All right, then a motion to adjourn.
Happy New Year to.
Oh, that's right. Let's get this year over. 21.
That's right.
Better.
Bring on 2021.
Year. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
It hasn't all been bad. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl. You know, we kind of lose track. You know,
Right.
sometimes we kind of forget that some things are
But the
really wonderful.
balancing scale
And there
is
are wonderful
unique.
things that have happened even throughout this year. And I think we need to try to
Right.
remember that it isn't all
Got married.
it isn't all negative. There you go.
Yeah.
There are things that have happened that have been fantastic.
That's huge.
And we need to keep that in mind, and we'll look forward to a new year and that the Chiefs get another Super Bowl win.
Okay. All right.
That would help.
And we get an unexpected shipment of vaccine to be able to
There you go.
vaccinate
See, but
everybody
there's
in
all
county.
kinds of there's always a silver lining. We just have
Okay.
to peek and look for it.
All
And
right.
it's
Well, that
there.
was good to know. I think we need to mention about the testing again that's available at St. Mary's.
St. Mary, and it's easy to get through. If it's
It's 8
there
o'clock
at the first entrance.
7:30 to 4:30.
7:30 to 4:30. You can go get a test.
8:30 to 4:30.
Eight-
Yeah,
Okay, 8:30 to 4:30, St. Mary's, off of Hughes Road.
off of Hughes Road,
Yep.
and
That you
you
can get
don't
tested.
have to have an appointment, but it's good if you have one.
Speeds it up if you have an
Speeds it
appointment.
up, and it helps. You know,
And what was the website to log in to make the appointment?
now I don't remember.
I think they have a link on the county.
It's-
health.
It is
linked
on the
It's
health
on the
department.
county health
And
department's
it's on
link,
our
how to get
website.
tested.
Yeah, Leavenworth County website, health department link.
Yeah,
Okay, well, like I said, I'm glad we got that.
and
I had a question.
it's free.
Free.
Always
Right.
make sure people understand.
So I know we
it's
keep
free.
saying that, and the state of Kansas has done a great job of that.
Well,
but as far as I know, nothing's free. I'm
Nothing's
curious who's
free. I
paying.
meant it's at no cost to the person who
Right.
is
No
going
cost
in.
yet to the test taker. Correct. But
Right.
There's a lot of things flying around that have this free connotation.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
there's-
think
Well,
that
we just
works.
Means me and you pay for it.
I
Well,
would say when
Except
they
for
changed the
very
capital
small
gains
children,
tax,
and testing needs to be done for very young children, needs to be done in a proper facility like Children's Mercy or something like that really know what they're doing. But the age is pretty much school age all the way up through. There's not, and you can be asymptomatic. It doesn't matter. You
Right.
don't have to be testing for any specific reason. So.
Well, and I meant to ask Jamie, so it was my understanding when the school boards made their request, obviously, or were making the announcement that they were changing their, delivery to online only, a number of them did that, and then they were going back right after the first of the year based on, again, gating criteria and all that. It's my understanding that those numbers would support live instruction again, but I haven't seen or heard anything from any of those parties. I didn't know if anybody else had.
They had already anticipated that there would be live instruction after the first of the year, except for those, there are parents who have opted to have remote learning.
Sure.
But all of them so far, USC 453 never did.
Yeah, I know it wasn't universal.
There
just were a number here locally that did.
But all the school districts, my understanding is that all of them are starting up after the first of the year, the 5th,
Okay.
I believe it is.
Well, hopefully by the beginning of the fall of 21, that everything will be back to normal.
And I guess then we'll have to see. Things can, you just never know.
You never know.
But I think that it's pretty well demonstrated that kids do better when they're in their learning environment. I learned that lesson really quickly.
Yeah, having a real teacher, it makes a big difference.
And it does. And different kids have different learning styles, and some of them remote learning does not mesh well with. So.
Or the internet.
At all possible.
Right. Or the internet. Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
I